The humans surprised everyone, including the alien princess. Commander Elia's heart sat in the pilot's seat, staring at the alien city below. He had been trained for countless missions, but this was unlike anything he had ever faced. First contact with an advanced alien civilization was supposed to be a formality for diplomats and scientists. For him, it was personal. Humanity had always been underestimated, and now the galaxy would finally see what humans could do. The corridors of the ship hummed softly as Elias adjusted his uniform. He looked around at the small crew, all trained for emergencies but clearly aware that the biggest challenge lay ahead. Their mission was diplomatic, to represent Earth at the Galactic Council. The aliens of Xylar Prime had a reputation for intelligence, precision, and, according to some reports, arrogance. Elias had read about them endlessly, but no amount of research could prepare a human mind for the reality of stepping onto their world. The landing bay opened, revealing a platform suspended in the sky above the city. Below, flying vehicles darted between towers like schools of fish in a luminous ocean. As Elias stepped onto the platform, his boots echoed against the polished surface. He felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. Humans had traveled far, but the Zephyrians had reached heights that made Earth look primitive. The air shimmered with energy fields, and massive structures glided silently, defying gravity. A delegation of Zephyrian officials awaited him, their tall, elegant forms radiating authority. Each wore robes that shifted colors subtly, reflecting their moods and status. Elias straightened, reminding himself that confidence mattered even more than knowledge. He had trained for decades for moments like this, but the unpredictability of alien reactions made every step uncertain. From the center of the group emerged Princess Lyra. She moved with grace, her presence commanding yet elegant. Her eyes were large and luminescent, changing hue slightly as she focused on Elias. She had been briefed about humans, but nothing could prepare her for meeting one face to face. Most species regarded humanity as clever but unsophisticated. Lyra expected this human to be charming, cautious, or perhaps amusingly naive. She did not expect boldness. "Commander Elias Hart," she said, her voice melodic but firm, "welcome to Xylar Prime. The Council has prepared a reception in your honor." Elias bowed slightly, aware of the cameras and officials recording every gesture. "Thank you, Princess Lyra. It is an honor to be here." His tone was respectful but calm, the kind of tone that suggested he belonged despite being surrounded by beings far superior in technology and tradition. As they walked through the ceremonial halls, Elias observed everything. The walls were made of a material that shimmered like liquid crystal, reflecting soft light. Alien artwork floated in midair, changing shapes slowly, depicting stories of history and conquest. Elias wondered if the Zephyrians had ever seen humans like him before, observant, fearless, and entirely focused. The council room was immense, circular, with a translucent floor showing the city below. Aliens from multiple species gathered, their attention sharp, their postures rigid. Conversations in different tonal languages filled the air. Elias felt the weight of expectation, but he kept his mind steady. Humanity's reputation might be small here, but he had a chance to leave a lasting impression. During the formal introduction, a minor protocol error occurred. One of the Zephyrian officials misaligned the ceremonial greeting, a subtle mistake that could have offended the council. Most humans would have ignored it or fumbled nervously. Elias noticed immediately. With a small but confident gesture, he corrected the official's error politely, using words and tones that respected alien customs. A murmur ran through the council. Aliens turned their heads, some whispering to each other. Correcting a Zephyrian in front of the council was daring, almost unheard of. Elias kept his expression calm, showing no arrogance but unmistakable confidence. Princess Lyra raised an eyebrow, a mixture of surprise and curiosity flickering across her face. This human was not the timid species she had expected. After the ceremony, the delegation moved to a private garden atop the council tower. The garden floated in midair, a perfect blend of alien flora and gravity-defying streams. The scent was subtle but unlike anything on Earth, sweet with hints of spice and minerals. Elias walked beside Lyra, who observed him closely. She wanted to see how he would handle the first few hours of immersion in Zephyrian culture. "You are not like the humans we have met before," Lyra said finally, breaking the polite silence. Your actions suggest confidence beyond what your species is known for. Elias smiled slightly. I imagine humans have more strengths than you might think. We adapt, we survive, we find solutions when others expect us to fail. Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly. She had grown up around beings who could calculate probabilities instantly, manipulate energy fields, and anticipate outcomes with precision. A human relying on intuition and adaptability seemed almost quaint. Yet there was something undeniable about the way he carried himself. He did not hesitate, he did not falter, and he made decisions quickly, even under pressure. You speak boldly, she said. Boldness can be dangerous in diplomacy. Sometimes, Elias replied, boldness is necessary to prevent disaster, and sometimes it's how we show that we are capable of more than anyone expects. Lyra considered his words carefully. Her advisors would have told her to dismiss this human. Instead, she felt a spark of intrigue. Perhaps this species had hidden depths. Perhaps humans could surprise even the most powerful beings in the galaxy. That evening, the council hosted a formal dinner. Aliens from various worlds gathered, their voices a symphony of sound and emotion. Elias moved gracefully, conversing in basic galactic trade language. He noticed subtle hierarchies, the way alien gestures communicated status, and how alliances could shift with a single comment. Each observation informed his strategy, and he adapted naturally. During the meal, a demonstration of Zephyrian technology began. A holographic map of several star systems unfolded above the table, showing trade routes, resource flows, and security networks. Most guests watched in fascination. Elias studied the projections quietly, analyzing patterns and noticing inconsistencies. When a minor error in the display went unnoticed by the council, Elias corrected it gently, explaining the issue without implying criticism. Again, the room fell silent. Aliens whispered to each other. Princess Lyra's expression was a mixture of surprise and amusement. She had expected humans to be clever, but this was different. This was deliberate intelligence applied in a subtle, effective way. After dinner, Lyra invited Elias to walk with her through the floating gardens. The city lights shimmered below, creating a kaleidoscope of colors. You have a strange talent for observation, she said. It is unlike any human or alien I have seen. You notice things others miss and you act on them. Elias looked at her calmly. Perhaps that is what humans do best. We are underestimated because we are unpredictable. We rely on our minds, our instincts, and sometimes a little courage. Lyra smiled faintly. She had grown up believing she understood the galaxy, that species had predictable strengths and weaknesses. Yet here was a human defying every expectation, quietly proving that humanity had its own kind of power. She could not deny the fascination growing inside her. Tomorrow, she said softly, I will introduce you to a series of tests. They will be challenging. I expect you will fail. Elias chuckled, a sound that carried confidence without arrogance. I look forward to it. Humans rarely fail without a good reason. And sometimes, even failure teaches more than success. Lyra's eyes glimmered with a mix of intrigue and challenge. She did not fully understand this species yet, but she could see that humans had qualities that even the most advanced beings could not predict. Elias, meanwhile, walked with quiet determination, knowing that the next day would be the true measure of humanity's place among the stars. The night deepened, and the city below glowed with life. Elias returned to his quarters, reviewing the day in his mind. Every observation, every interaction, every subtle correction had been a test in itself. Humanity was new to the galactic stage, yet he felt no fear. Confidence, adaptability, and the ability to see beyond the obvious were powerful tools. If he could survive tomorrow, he could show the galaxy that humans were more than clever. They were extraordinary. And somewhere high above the city, Princess Lyra watched the human retreating into his quarters. She could not deny the truth forming in her mind. This human might surprise everyone, even her. The next morning, the light of Xylar Prime's triple suns filtered through the translucent walls of the council tower. Elia's heart woke with a sense of determination. Yesterday had been impressive, perhaps even surprising to the council, but today promised something more demanding. Princess Lyra had warned him about tests, challenges that would probe the limits of his mind, skill, and adaptability. He had no idea what to expect, but he felt ready. Humans had faced worse odds before, and he believed their ingenuity was a weapon no alien could predict. When he entered the floating garden, Lyra was already there, waiting with her advisors. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of alien flowers that shimmered in iridescent hues. Elias bowed respectfully, though his movements were relaxed, confident. Lyra's expression was unreadable, a mix of curiosity and expectation. "Good morning, Commander," she said. "Today you will face tests designed to show whether humans can think beyond instinct and technology. Most species fail quickly. I expect you will do the same." Elias met her gaze evenly. "I am ready, Princess. Humans may surprise you yet." Lyra tilted her head slightly, as if evaluating the courage in his tone. "We will see." The first test was a puzzle of logic and strategy. A holographic sphere hovered in the air between them, covered with glowing lines forming intricate patterns. Lyra explained that the sphere contained a virtual maze, constantly shifting and responding to actions taken by the solver. The task was to navigate a point from one side of the sphere to the other without triggering alarms or traps. The Zephyrians completed such puzzles in moments. It was an exercise in advanced computation. Elias studied the sphere silently. Unlike the aliens, who relied on sheer calculation and memory, he relied on observation. He noticed the subtle patterns in the movements of the holographic walls, the slight delay between shifts, and the way the light lines responded to pressure. Using only a small handheld interface, he moved carefully, combining intuition with logic. Minutes passed, then seconds seemed to stretch as the holographic walls shifted unpredictably. Aliens around them watched, skeptical, some whispering that this human had no chance. And yet Elias adapted at each turn, sometimes stepping back, sometimes anticipating the next change. Finally, with a careful series of movements, the point reached its destination. A wave of murmurs ran through the observing council members. Some were astonished, others looked confused. Princess Lyra's eyes widened slightly, betraying her surprise. "Remarkable," she said softly. "You do not rely on speed or raw computation. You think differently." Elias shrugged modestly. "Sometimes patience and observation tell more than numbers alone." The second test was physical, though still unusual by human standards. Lyra led him to a large arena where energy fields created obstacles that moved unpredictably. The goal was to reach the far side of the arena, avoiding contact with the barriers. Aliens moved with precision, calculating their paths, but humans were considered clumsy by comparison. Elias stepped into the arena, feeling the subtle hum of the energy fields. Unlike the aliens, he did not attempt to calculate every step. He observed patterns, timing, and movement. He ran, jumped, and ducked with agility, using improvisation and quick reflexes. Several times it seemed he would be trapped, but he adjusted instantly, finding routes the aliens could not predict. When he reached the end, Lyra was waiting, her arms crossed. "You are fast, yes, but more importantly, you adapt. That is why humans are dangerous when underestimated." Elias smiled, breathing lightly but calm. "Adaptation keeps us alive. You might call it instinct, but it is also strategy." The third test was the most challenging yet, a negotiation simulation. A complex scenario unfolded before them, involving multiple alien species, scarce resources, and potential conflict. Most species solved such simulations with strict logic and advanced predictive models. Humans were expected to fail quickly, unable to anticipate the complexities. Elias studied the simulation carefully. He listened to the arguments of each party, noting their priorities and fears. Where the aliens relied on data and prediction, he relied on empathy, reasoning, and the ability to see hidden motivations. He made proposals, suggested compromises, and anticipated reactions in ways the aliens had not programmed the simulation to expect. Hours passed, and the council observers leaned closer. The simulation evolved, escalating tension and forcing quick decisions. At every turn, Elias' choices prevented conflict, balanced needs, and fostered cooperation. When the simulation concluded, the result was unprecedented. A complete resolution without conflict, something the Zephyrians considered almost impossible for humans. Lyra's expression softened slightly. She had never expected such creativity. "You approach problems differently. Perhaps humans have value beyond what I thought." Elias nodded respectfully. "Every species has strengths. Sometimes the ones no one expects are the most powerful." After the simulations, Lyra introduced a test designed to challenge intuition. A device projected illusions, false information, and deceptive signals. Its purpose was to see whether Elias could discern truth from distraction under pressure. Most species failed, overwhelmed by the complexity and speed of the illusions. Elias paused, studying the projections calmly. He ignored the noise and focused on patterns that made sense. Slowly, carefully, he identified inconsistencies and traced the correct sequences. Step by step, he solved the illusion, moving through layers of deception with patience and insight. Lyra watched in silence. By now, the council members observing were openly murmuring in surprise. Aliens who had doubted humans whispered among themselves, trying to understand how this species could achieve what they had considered impossible. As the day drew to a close, Lyra led Elias to a balcony overlooking the city. The floating platforms shimmered in the sunset, casting reflections across the polished towers. "You have done better than I expected," she admitted, her voice low but sincere. "Perhaps humanity is not as weak as I assumed." Elias looked out at the city lights, calm and thoughtful. "We are strong because we adapt, because we learn, because we do not accept limits imposed by others. That is what humans have always done." Lyra studied him carefully. She had grown up believing she understood every major species in the galaxy. Each had predictable strengths and weaknesses. Humans, she realized, were unpredictable in a way that was both fascinating and unnerving. "I had thought of humans as naive, as weak," she said softly. "You are something else entirely." Elias turned to her, meeting her gaze. "Sometimes underestimation is our greatest advantage." The council observers slowly dispersed, many still whispering about what they had witnessed. Lyra remained beside Elias, her expression thoughtful. She could see the spark of ingenuity and courage that made humans capable of more than anyone had imagined. She also understood that the challenges of tomorrow would be even greater, and she was curious to see how far this human could go. That evening, as Elias prepared for rest, he reflected on the day. The tests had not been easy, but each challenge had allowed him to show the qualities humans often relied on: observation, adaptability, empathy, and intuition. Aliens often depended on raw intelligence and calculation, yet humans could achieve remarkable results with creativity and courage. Lyra's final words echoed in his mind. "I expect you will fail." Yet Elias had not failed. He had adapted, outthought, and succeeded where others assumed failure was inevitable. Humanity had survived, and more importantly, it had impressed a civilization that considered humans insignificant. Night fell over Xylar Prime. The city lights glimmered like stars brought down to the ground. Elias knew tomorrow would bring new trials, greater tests, and challenges that would push him to the limits. But he also knew something else. Humans were most dangerous when others underestimated them. And somewhere high above the floating city, Princess Lyra watched the human walking through the gardens, calm and confident. She could not deny it any longer. Humans were not only clever, they were unpredictable, resilient, and remarkably capable. Perhaps they had a place among the stars after all. The day ended with quiet reflection, but the excitement lingered. Both human and alien had learned something valuable. The galaxy was bigger, stranger, and more surprising than they had imagined. And humanity, often dismissed and underestimated, had begun to show its true potential. Elias fell asleep that night with a clear thought in his mind. Tomorrow, the real challenges would begin. But no matter what tests awaited him, he would face them as humans always had, fearlessly, creatively, and with a determination that no one could predict. The next morning on Xylar Prime began quietly, but the calm was deceptive. Word arrived that a rogue faction from a distant system had begun attacking a vital trade corridor. Their ships were fast and aggressive, threatening to destabilize the fragile alliances within the Galactic Council. The Zephyrians, known for their precise planning and technological mastery, immediately began assessing defensive strategies. Yet even they were concerned. The rogue faction's moves were unpredictable, almost chaotic, and the Council had little time to respond. Elias' heart stood in the Council war room, observing holographic displays of star systems, fleet movements, and trade routes. The humans had been assigned a minor role in earlier discussions, but now the urgency was clear. Lyra approached him, her expression serious but tinged with a hint of curiosity. "Commander," she said, "I need you to assist in the negotiations. This crisis will require more than just firepower. Diplomacy, strategy, and quick thinking are essential." Elias nodded. I understand, Princess. We'll find a solution. Lyra's advisors exchanged glances. They were skeptical. Humans, they thought, were clever but lacked the precision and strategic foresight necessary for interstellar politics. Elias, however, had proven that humans had a different kind of strength: intuition, creativity, and the ability to think in ways no alien could predict. The negotiation began with representatives from several affected systems. Voices of different species, each with unique tonal qualities, filled the chamber. Some demanded retaliation, others pleaded for caution, and a few expressed distrust of both humans and Zephyrians alike. The atmosphere was tense, with frustration simmering beneath polite diplomacy. Elias observed quietly. Instead of responding immediately, he listened to each representative, noting their priorities, fears, and unspoken agendas. He noticed subtle shifts in tone, small gestures that revealed hidden motivations, and patterns in how alliances formed and broke apart. Most species relied on rigid logic, but humans could use empathy and intuition to navigate complex social dynamics. When it was his turn to speak, Elias stepped forward calmly. We understand the threat is serious, he began, but acting impulsively may worsen the situation. Let us consider solutions that protect your people, maintain trade routes, and reduce conflict. Some representatives nodded cautiously, intrigued by the humans' approach. Others frowned, doubting that a species so new to the council could offer viable advice. Elias ignored the skepticism and continued. The rogue faction is responding to fear and unpredictability. If we anticipate their moves without threatening them directly, we can stabilize the corridor. I propose a temporary ceasefire, coupled with a shared intelligence network, allowing us to act decisively without escalating the conflict. Lyra raised an eyebrow. His plan was unconventional, relying not on raw power but on strategy and understanding. The other council members murmured among themselves. A few murmurs turned into quiet debates. Could this human plan really succeed? Hours passed as the council analyzed Elias' proposal. Some species resisted, insisting on immediate military action. Others, impressed by the clarity and adaptability of his reasoning, leaned toward his plan. At each objection, Elias remained calm, offering solutions that balanced caution with strength. He anticipated objections, presented alternatives, and even suggested compromises that allowed rival factions to save face. As the session continued, a sudden alert interrupted the proceedings. A scout fleet from the rogue faction had appeared closer to the corridor than expected, threatening civilian convoys. Panic rippled through the council chamber. Aliens reacted instinctively, some advocating immediate strikes, others demanding emergency protocols. Elias stepped forward again. Do not act yet, he said firmly. Reacting without understanding their motives will escalate this conflict. Observe their patterns, predict their next move, and respond with precision. Humans have found that patience and careful observation often achieve what force alone cannot. Lyra glanced at him, skeptical yet intrigued. She had seen humans adapt in tests and simulations, but now Elias was applying the same creativity under real pressure. His calm voice cut through the tension, forcing alien representatives to pause and reconsider. Minutes passed like hours. Elias analyzed the movements of the rogue fleet, noting their weak points, predictable patterns, and risk factors. He proposed a series of calculated maneuvers, combining diversion tactics with targeted communication signals designed to confuse the attackers without causing direct conflict. Some of the council members were doubtful, but Lyra decided to trust him. The plan was implemented. Human insight guided Zephyrian fleet movements, while communication protocols sent carefully coded messages to the rogue faction. Slowly, the tide shifted. Ships retreated from key routes, avoiding unnecessary damage. The civilians were protected, and the rogue faction's aggression began to subside. Council members watched in astonishment. Aliens known for centuries of strategic mastery had been surprised by the humans' ability to anticipate and resolve the crisis. Elias moved calmly among the projections, adjusting plans in real time, his mind working faster than anyone could follow. Lyra approached him quietly during a brief pause. You are remarkable, she admitted. I had not expected this. Humans are usually dismissed as inexperienced and weak. Elias smiled faintly. We are not the strongest by technology or force alone, but humans can see possibilities others overlook. We adapt, we improvise, and we act when the moment requires it. The crisis slowly came under control. The rogue faction agreed to temporary ceasefire conditions, monitored by Zephyrian and allied fleets. Trade resumed cautiously, and casualties were minimal. Council members applauded the resolution, many surprised by the efficiency and foresight displayed. Lyra, standing beside Elias, allowed herself a small smile. She had underestimated humanity. The tests, the simulations, and now this real crisis had shown her that humans were far more capable than anyone had believed. There was a spark in them, a combination of courage, creativity, and adaptability that even the most advanced alien minds could not predict. Elias, however, was already thinking ahead. He understood that this was just one victory, one demonstration of human ingenuity. The galaxy was vast, and challenges would continue to grow. Yet for the first time, humans were not merely observers. They were recognized as contributors, as problem solvers, as beings capable of shaping events on a galactic scale. Later, in the quiet of the Council Tower's observation deck, Lyra and Elias watched the city lights flicker below. Floating vehicles darted through the sky like luminous fish, and towers glimmered with energy and life. "You have shown humanity's potential," Lyra said softly. "Not just to me, but to every species present. You have done what I thought impossible." Elias nodded. "It is only the beginning. Humans are often underestimated. That is our advantage. We survive, we adapt, and we act when others hesitate." Lyra considered his words. She had grown up believing in predictable patterns, measurable strengths, and known capabilities. Yet here was a human who defied all expectations, navigating diplomacy, strategy, and danger with calm confidence. She realized that humanity had qualities no alien could fully comprehend, qualities that made them unpredictable and perhaps extraordinary. The Council celebrated the successful resolution, but Lyra's mind remained focused. She wondered how far humans could go, what other surprises they might bring, and whether Elias' abilities represented the potential of all his species. She also realized that this human had earned her respect in a way few beings ever could. As the night deepened, Elias reflected quietly. The challenge had been immense, but he had relied on what humans always relied on: observation, adaptation, courage, and insight. Technology alone was not enough. Understanding motives, anticipating reactions, and finding creative solutions were just as important. Humans had survived and thrived for millennia in unpredictable circumstances, and now, on Xylar Prime, that same ingenuity had turned the tide of a galactic crisis. Lyra, standing nearby, watched him. There was admiration in her gaze, tempered by fascination. She had begun to understand that humans were more than clever. They were capable of extraordinary things when underestimated. And perhaps, she thought, they were a species worth knowing, not just for their abilities, but for the ways they could challenge and change the galaxy itself. The night ended quietly, but both human and alien knew that greater challenges awaited. The rogue faction was contained for now, but the galaxy was vast, and unpredictable threats would continue to arise. Yet humanity had shown that it was not just clever. It was resilient, creative, and capable of rising to any challenge. Elias slept that night with clarity in his mind. Tomorrow would bring new negotiations, new tests, and perhaps new dangers. But humans had a simple principle that had carried them through countless trials: adapt, survive, and act with ingenuity when others expected failure. And somewhere above the glowing towers of Xylar Prime, Princess Lyra smiled quietly to herself. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but perhaps that unpredictability was exactly what the galaxy needed. And she could not help but feel that Elias and the species he represented had only just begun to show their true potential. The stars outside the observation deck shimmered with possibilities, and both human and alien understood that the real challenges and the real surprises were still to come. Humanity had proven it could rise above expectations. Now the question remained: just how far could it go? The Galactic Council had convened in the Grand Hall of Xylar Prime once more. This time, the stakes were higher than ever. Representatives from dozens of star systems had gathered, many of them still recovering from the recent rogue faction crisis. The Council's purpose was clear: to decide if humanity, still a young species on the galactic stage, deserved a permanent and influential seat among the advanced civilizations. Elia's heart walked into the chamber with measured steps. He wore a formal uniform, but his posture remained relaxed, confident, and alert. The council members had not forgotten his role in resolving the corridor crisis, and murmurs of curiosity and skepticism rippled through the crowd. Most species expected a human to falter in a full council session, but Elias had already demonstrated that humans thrived where others underestimated them. Princess Lyra stood beside him, her robes shifting through subtle shades of iridescent blue. She had learned to respect this human in ways she had never expected. His calm intelligence, creativity, and ability to navigate unpredictability had challenged her assumptions about humanity. Now she would watch him attempt something that few species could manage, earning universal recognition for his people. The session began with speeches and reports. Alien representatives discussed trade, security, and shared resources. Elias listened attentively, noting subtle tensions, unspoken rivalries, and potential opportunities for compromise. Many species assumed he would stumble, that the young humans could not possibly navigate such a complex web of politics. He, however, had no intention of faltering. When it was his turn to speak, Elias stepped forward calmly, his voice carrying a mixture of authority and humility. "Esteemed representatives," he began, "humanity has watched, learned, and adapted to the galaxy. We have faced crises, made mistakes, and grown stronger. Today, we are not here to claim superiority. We are here to demonstrate that humans can contribute to the Council, to peace, and to progress in ways that benefit all species." He paused, letting the words sink in. Some Council members nodded cautiously, intrigued by the human's poise. Others remained skeptical, whispering to one another, unconvinced that a species so young could meaningfully participate in interstellar governance. Elias continued, explaining humanity's perspective on cooperation, resource sharing, and conflict resolution. He spoke of Earth's history, not as a tale of conquest, but as a story of survival, ingenuity, and adaptation. He reminded the Council that humans had thrived in unpredictable environments, faced challenges that seemed insurmountable, and solved problems with creativity and determination. Some representatives leaned forward, curious. Many of the older species had relied on calculations, tradition, and advanced technology. They had not considered the power of intuition, adaptability, and moral reasoning. Elias illustrated how humans approached problems differently, how they saw possibilities where others saw impossibilities. The tension in the room grew when a sudden alert arrived. A massive energy storm threatened a colony on the edge of Council territory. The storm's path was erratic and dangerous, threatening civilian lives and critical infrastructure. Panic spread among several delegates, and some immediately demanded evacuation protocols or fleet interventions. Elias acted quickly. "Do not panic," he said firmly. "We can stabilize the situation without unnecessary risk. The storm is predictable in ways you might not have considered. With careful observation, rapid adaptation, and coordination, we can protect lives and resources without panic or destruction." He directed attention to the projections, pointing out patterns and weak points in the storm's path. Using a combination of human ingenuity and knowledge of the Council's technology, he proposed a series of maneuvers and interventions that minimized risk. Aliens who had doubted humans' capabilities watched in astonishment as the plan took shape. Princess Lyra observed quietly, impressed. Elias had anticipated the storm's changes before most systems had registered them. He coordinated fleets and automated devices, communicated with affected colonies, and adjusted the plan in real time as the storm shifted unexpectedly. The room, once tense, began to calm as the situation stabilized. Minutes later, reports confirmed the effectiveness of his strategy. Civilian casualties were avoided, infrastructure was largely intact, and the rogue energy storm had been diverted with minimal disruption. The Council erupted in surprise and cautious applause. Aliens who had doubted humans now whispered about the remarkable foresight and adaptability that had prevented disaster. Elias turned to the Council and spoke again. "This is what humanity offers: careful observation, creative problem-solving, and adaptability in unpredictable circumstances. We do not rely solely on force or calculation. We rely on thought, ingenuity, and cooperation." These qualities make us valuable partners, capable of contributing to the Council's mission of peace and progress. The chamber fell silent as the weight of his words settled over the delegates. Some were still skeptical, unwilling to fully admit their surprise. Others looked impressed, realizing that humans were capable of feats that even experienced species might overlook. Princess Lyra's expression softened as she watched the scene unfold. The human she had once doubted had proven his people's worth in ways she could not ignore. Following the storm crisis, the council opened the floor to debate. Representatives from multiple species spoke, some cautiously supporting humanity, others questioning whether humans could sustain such performance. Elias listened patiently, taking notes and considering counterarguments. When he responded, he did so with clarity, empathy, and precision, addressing concerns without arrogance and demonstrating that humans could reason beyond personal pride or fear. Hours passed, and the discussions reached a climax. Many delegates had changed their opinion, acknowledging that humans had performed beyond expectations. The final vote approached, a decision that would determine whether humanity would gain full membership and influence in the council. Elias stood beside Lyra as the votes were tallied. The room held its breath. One by one, species declared their support, citing his actions during the corridor crisis, the storm intervention, and the creative solutions he had proposed. The results were overwhelming. Humanity had earned a permanent place among the galaxy's advanced civilizations. The chamber erupted in applause. Aliens who had doubted humans now looked upon them with newfound respect. Princess Lyra stepped forward, a faint smile on her face. She extended her hand toward Elias. "You have done what few could achieve," she said. "Humanity is no longer underestimated. You have shown that even a young species can contribute meaningfully to the galaxy. I respect what you have accomplished." Elias took her hand, bowing slightly. "Thank you, Princess. Humans do not seek superiority. We seek understanding, cooperation, and the opportunity to show that our potential is greater than appearances suggest." Lyra nodded thoughtfully. "You have proven it. Perhaps humanity will surprise the galaxy again in ways none of us can yet imagine." The hall cleared, and the council members began informal discussions, many approaching Elias with questions, advice, and offers of cooperation. Humans were no longer outsiders. They were recognized partners, capable of influencing decisions on a galactic scale. The shift in perception was profound. Species that had once dismissed humans now regarded them as valuable contributors and creative problem solvers. Later, in the quiet of the Council Tower's observation deck, Elias and Lyra walked together. The city below shimmered in the glow of three suns, and floating platforms and vehicles moved gracefully among towers. "You have changed perceptions today," Lyra said softly. "Not just of you, but of your species. Humans are remarkable." Elias smiled. "We have always been remarkable, Princess. We just needed the chance to prove it. Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage a species can have." Lyra nodded, her gaze thoughtful. She had begun the day assuming humans were limited, naive, and easily outmatched. Yet, in less than a few days, Elias had demonstrated qualities that could not be measured by technology or calculations: courage, creativity, empathy, and adaptability. She realized that humans had a potential that even the most advanced species could not predict. "Do you think your people will be ready for the challenges ahead?" she asked. Elias looked at her calmly. "We always rise to challenges, Princess. Every test, every crisis, every unexpected turn, humans have survived and thrived through all of it. The galaxy is no different. We will adapt, we will learn, and we will act when the moment demands it." The night deepened, and the stars above Xylar Prime twinkled like diamonds. Elias felt a sense of accomplishment, not in personal glory, but in the recognition of humanity's place among the stars. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, overlooked, and dismissed. Now they had earned respect and opportunity. Lyra, walking beside him, realized that the story of humans was only beginning. Their ingenuity, courage, and unpredictability would continue to surprise the galaxy. And she felt a quiet sense of anticipation, wondering what future challenges this young species would overcome, and how they might reshape the very structure of interstellar cooperation. The council session ended, but the impact of Elias' actions would echo for years. Humanity had demonstrated that it was capable, resourceful, and intelligent, not just in technology, but in thought, diplomacy, and creativity. Aliens who had doubted them would remember this moment as the day humans proved their worth. Elias returned to his quarters later that night, exhausted but calm. He reflected on the journey, the tests, the crisis, the negotiations, and the final vote. Each moment had shown a different facet of human strength. Adaptability, insight, creativity, and courage had guided him through challenges that many species would have failed. Humanity had risen to a new stage in the galaxy. Princess Lyra lingered nearby, her expression softening. She had grown to respect the human before her, not just for his skill, but for the qualities of his species. Perhaps, she thought, humans could become a force for balance and innovation, a reminder to all species that appearances and assumptions were often misleading. The night ended quietly, but the feeling of achievement lingered. Humanity had shown that it was capable of more than anyone had imagined. It had survived tests, navigated crises, and earned a permanent place among the stars. Elias looked out at the galaxy, calm and resolute. The future was uncertain, as it always was, but humans had demonstrated something vital. They could rise to any challenge, adapt to any situation, and thrive where others expected failure. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and that underestimation had been humanity's greatest strength. Princess Lyra watched him, a faint smile on her lips. The human had surprised everyone, including her. And she had no doubt that humanity would continue to surprise the galaxy, one challenge at a time. The human surprised everyone, including the alien princess.